Now, yesterday we said 7 teams wanted to secede. Could there be an 8th team that tries to figure this bad boy out and completes the infinity stones, rather, let's call it, when it comes to the ACC dismantling? We'll talk about realignment. What are the top 3 things that could potentially happen when it comes to either making it better for the current programs or what it just needs to be the nail in the coffin? All of that here on today's episode.
You are Locked On ACC, your daily podcast on the Atlantic Coast Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to today's edition of Locked On ACC. I'm your host, Candace Cooper, joined by Kenton Gibbs of Locked On Wolfpack. Each and every day, you can find us wherever you listen to podcasts. Today's episode is brought to you by Birddogs. Go to birddogs.com/LockedOnCollege. And when you enter promo code LockedOnCollege, they'll throw a free custom Birddogs Yeti-style tumbler with every order. Just got my tumbler today, and I'm telling you what, it is a way to keep me extremely hydrated, as well as these new shorts that I'm rocking. I don't know, Ken, if you had yours yet, but, I'm making a little summer fit, adding a little vibe. I got myself a Tar Heel blue pair. They didn't even know I was a Tar Heel, and they gave me a Tar Heel pair, which I'm very excited about.
Good for you. Good for you. If they send me that same color pair, don't worry, Bird Dog. You'll be getting your shorts right back, buddy. You'll be getting them right back.
Now, why are you going to do that when this is legitimate and we need to sell this? What?
I'm sure the shorts feel amazing. I'm sure they look amazing. I'm sure they're all the things. But me and mine, I told you,
You can give them to your friends. You could give them to a colleague. You can give them to me. Hell, come on, buddy. Come on.
Number one, me and you have very different sized legs, so I'm sure that these massive
our
quads
frames
of
look
mine,
kind of similar on the show. I don't know.
They don't. Former defensive tackle, former swimmer, 2 very different bodies.
Hey,
2 very different bodies.
Former and being current is 2 different things. Okay.
Yeah, still, just the way that we're constructed and built, very different. Very different.
Big swole over here. Don't play with it. Okay.
I hear you. Anywho, yeah, I'm sure that they're wonderful. I hope that they did not send me a light blue pair as well, because like I said, y'all will be getting your product back.
Well, here it is. So allegedly, word on the street, Magnificent Seven, someone is feeling a way that people are even calling themselves that. If you didn't hear yesterday, the Magnificent Seven was a rumored group of ACC schools that were coming together to potentially plot and secede from the conference. You had FSU, Miami, North Carolina State, Virginia, and Virginia Tech, who said, we're really good on this whole grant of rights deal. That has been the topic of discussion. We've got a lot of lawyers on Twitter. Now, all of a sudden, we've got a lot of analysts here on Facebook and YouTube and the like. We've got people coming out of the woodworks in order to talk us through what is right and wrong, and especially our friends from Tallahassee who like to tell us about ourselves every other day and the third. We ain't even got to football yet.
Mm-hmm.
We ain't even got to football yet. They already hate me because of how I feel about Jordan Travis. But when it comes to this realignment, child, you act like they was the best thing to ever happen to the ACC.
Can I say something? I'm gonna say something. It's gonna hurt some feelings.
You always do. Go ahead.
Common sense has chased many of you all your lives, and you have been fasting every step of the way. I'll tell you what. You're the one who survives in the horror movie, because common sense ain't never catching some of y'all. I mean, good grief. I know that it's a giant monkey banging cymbals up there where it should be some neurons.
Please, no animals on the show, please.
That's fair. That's fair. That's fair. I don't understand how y'all can listen to our words and say, what do you mean you think our university should sit there and eat their food? We specifically said, based on revenue, these teams have a shot. That included some of y'all's team. George Bush will pay for his crime, for the children were left behind. The children were left behind. I don't know how we got here. I don't know what we need to do with the U.S. education system. But I do not understand how we can say out of our mouths, am I missing something? If I say, well, yeah, the money is what actually matters. And in terms of the money, it makes sense for them. They are one of the few teams that it could potentially make sense for.
Yeah.
But if you're talking on-field performance, that's a different story. And y'all still losing your wits, baby. Like I said, y'all fashion the common sense every step of the way.
Well, it's okay because we're going to have them run that episode back, get us the views, get us the comments. We appreciate all of them. Let us know how you feel, good, bad, or indifferent. We love the conversations because sometimes we are wrong about things. Like someone corrects me about Reese Beekman. Sometimes people are wrong. Sometimes we get it wrong, and that's okay. Sometimes we spot on, and y'all just need to go ahead with it. Come to Jesus for it and be about your way.
And I'll tell you this. Remember last time we had heavy alignment talks? They were talking about the alliance. And then we were doing the ACC roundtable. And speaking of Tallahassee, we had Tally Drake on the show. And they were talking about, well, he was saying that he was a lawyer and all that. And I said, well, I'm not a lawyer, but I know handshakes aren't worth a lick. Handshakes aren't worth nothing. They aren't worth the air that y'all breathed while you did it.
Well, technically handshakes are agreements. But I am of the mind and have a lawyer mommy who always tells me, get it on paper. If you don't do nothing else, get it on paper. Handshakes is cool. Get it on some writing. Make sure people's signatures are signed.
We saw the alliance be announced out loud in public. How long did that alliance last?
I don't even know if it got through COVID because we're probably still in COVID. But I don't even know if we got through the panty before the alliance was no more. Kevin Warren said...
And everybody told me, Ken, you don't know what you're talking about. There's something in the works behind this. I said, well, if there was something in the works, we would have heard something about some numbers. Because these agreements aren't just, people aren't making realignment in all of these talks just because people like or don't like a certain demographic. The university, Clemson University and Florida State University are not like, we hate the city of Syracuse, New York, and that's why we want a conference realignment. If we have to go to Blacksburg one more time, we'll end it all. That's why we want realignment. That's not what's happening. It's about the green, the dollars. So when I knew the alliance was formed, being used very loosely here, were formed. And I said, okay, well, where's the money at? Where can I trace the money to? When I heard there wasn't no money behind it, I said, oh, okay. Well, I'm going to tell you this. All of these teams, in the words of the folks on Twitter, they go in where the money reside, where the money reside, where the money reside, where the money reside. And that's all there is to it.
So I had a tweet come my way that I was just like, all right, put the panic button on, a little red alert, because I said, okay, this could really be real from G Swaim. Don't know if he is verified because, Twitter nowadays, they're taking over with the whole verification thing, but he has 36 years of radio. He has verified sources and all the things. So I'm just feeling like he wouldn't put us through all of this for no reason. But he said, quote, just verified this with a colleague who will also be reporting soon on Card Nation. Just became the 8th team to put the ACC's existence into serious jeopardy. Of course, that means the Big 12 has made the offer. The conference realignment is going down and soon. So let me just say, before we get to Peanut, okay, let's talk about Louisville potentially being the 8th team to really shake the table. Now, we went in on every university that was part of the magnificent, quote unquote, Magnificent Seven. Louisville, you said very clear and plain. How are you feeling about Louisville if they were to try and step their foot into the Secession waters?
I believe that Louisville is part of those teams that their viewership isn't in that realm to where it makes sense for them. Let me check the numbers out to make sure. Yeah, they're the 63rd most watched team in America with 496 viewers per game in terms of football. That's tough. That's tough. That's and then to have and this is, here's the thing. Like I said, it's all about the brand. It's all about the brand that your money can bring in, and basketball views would have to make up the difference, like they would for UNC, perhaps, right? Like you look at some of the most viewed games in terms of basketball every year, you're generally going to see UNC in that number. So it makes sense, even though they're not They're right below NC State in terms of viewership for football, while they have a bigger brand and all that. But I don't think that they are in that group. Again, there's a very select group that I'm like, hey, they could bite that $100 million bullet. And like, yes, it would be dumb, but on the back end, it would be dumb up front, but on the back end, it would make sense. Possibly, like they could recoup it over a certain amount of time, and they wouldn't be stuck in the Maryland situation where like you left money on the table, had to pay out money, you still haven't quite recovered almost a decade later. I don't think that those two, there's only 2-3 teams that are in that category, and I don't think Louisville is there.
All right, so before we get in, hear you agree. Totally agree. I think that Louisville need to sit right there, enjoy the ACC, and let's just relax. Getting a little too big for our britches now. But before we get into not only the realignment part of it and the fact that like, some of this is just completely asinine, we also have to talk through the fact that there are opportunities if the ACC does want to consider what to do here. But pump those brakes, because as we mentioned at the top of the show, we got some new fits here. If you have not checked out Birddog, got some new shorts, getting ready for our summer season, always wanting to look good, fit comfortably, the versatility of it, the lining of it, all the good things. Whether you want to go to a game, whether you want to sit back and chill, whether you want to just, relax and talk realignment with the buddies, it's always good for you to try Birddog's clothes. I promise you won't be disappointed. Go to birddogs.com/lockedoncollege. And when you enter promo code lockedoncollege, they'll throw in a free custom Birddogs Yeti tumbler. So make sure that you get yourself an opportunity to wear one pair of shorts or pants on the golf course, to a meeting, to a date, or hanging out with friends. Super stretchy fabric that makes your legs look great, and they're comfier than any of the shorts that I have thus far so far. And I am someone who's all about some good versatility. So make sure you check out Birddog. Now, jumping back into this bad boy here, want to address some of our conversations around realignment news, because Louisville could be the 8th team. We don't think anybody's going anywhere. As you mentioned on yesterday's show, somebody got to be lying, because airtight is airtight to me. For whatever reason, I know Commissioner Phillips is just not the type to make unnecessary statements. He's not the type to be talking out of his neck. He's not the type to be blowing smoke. I've seen smoke blowers, right? We've seen guys who just whatever. However,
they love to hear themselves talk.
100%. I feel like I want to feel like he's playing chess. I really do. I really want to feel like he's coming in with a power move that's going to tell us all to shut the H up respectfully. Like, I want to feel that from him. I don't know if I get that vibe just yet, but hopefully there's something in the works.
I need to understand this. And folks in the comments, feel free to tell me. Fellow media members, feel free to tell me. Anybody, feel free to tell me. What leverage do these universities have?
Yeah.
What are they going to abstain from or withhold from the ACC in order to make this make sense?
Yeah.
Because again, if we say, hey, these teams aren't going to play next season and that'll be what they withhold, well, then what would their players do? Just transfer out. Congratulations. Like, you all this is a no-win situation, total sum of annihilation, like I talked about yesterday. Oh, okay, well, they could keep their players and just go play another schedule. Sure. And you know what's going to happen when you play that other schedule? The ACC is going to come in and say, hey, friend, how you doing? Good to see you, best friend. Here's a bill. It's a lot of argument about how to split the bills on Twitter. It's a lot of argument about how to split the check when it comes. Don't worry about it, friend. Here's $120 million just for you. This is all for you. Me and my boys ain't got to pay none of it. This is all for you. How do you handle that? I'm confused as to what leverage these teams have. I'm still waiting on somebody to explain to me in detail, hey, this is the leverage and this is what these teams can do as to force secession or dissolution to be a thing. Because I talked about with the alliance, it is the money that is driving everything. And the contracts, these grant of rights, these TV deals, all of the deals that ensure that you have to stay in the conference, that's not just because you like each other. It's because you have an obligation to do so. Yeah. It's the difference between marriage and dating. When you're dating somebody, if you want to go and leave, bye, see you later, don't want nothing more to do with you. Marriage, on the other hand, there's some contracts that were not contracts, but there's some legalities to this thing. that have become different. There are tons of legalities wrapped up in this that I'm confused as to, like, yeah, y'all 8 can be as mad as you want to be. You can be as mad. And again, I'm talking about NC State in here too. You can be as mad as you want to be. I don't understand what you get.
Yes, great. Also, ESPN is the one that has the upper hand here. Let's all keep this a big old buck. Why would they give y'all more money when they make the most money? What do they have to gain from giving y'all more money? They don't get more exposure. They're not getting, like, what are you pouring more into that allows for them to get some kickback? Or what is their ROI in helping y'all anymore? They are the ones with the upper hand while giving y'all mediocre products. That's the crazy part. When it comes to network coverage and all the things, like SEC network, I would say argument, ACC network, even error. Like when it comes to competing with College Game Day, doesn't even hold a candle. Like it's clear what they're prioritizing, and yet and still making the most money out of all this bad boy.
If I look at the top view games from last year, because I got the top view teams in front of me and the top view games in front of me, only one in the top 10 includes an ACC team. Only one. Okay. We have to go even further down to find one that includes 2 ACC teams. I believe number 24 is the highest rated one.
Yeah.
I don't know what to tell y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, you're playing chicken with a tank that is not afraid to commit a war crime. That's the problem.
But here's the problem, Ken. Okay, let's say, for instance, they find $120 million, right? Clemson and FSU, probably the ones that are most arguably FSU's, strongest in football, FSU and Clemson here. And Miami, could they come back?
But again, we're not talking who's the strongest in football. We talk financial. Financially, they're the only ones that could probably swing it. Probably, yeah.
Sure. $120 million. Let's say they want to pay it. You're hoping that somebody wants you back. Are you having these secured conversations to where if you were to succeed, you have a guaranteed spot in the SEC, you have a guaranteed spot in the Big Ten? They do?
Well, I think that's not a problem. I think the finding a new home ain't the problem. I don't think
you really
that's the
think
problem.
So?
No, not at all. What conference wouldn't be excited to bring on a Clemson? What conference wouldn't be excited to bring on a Florida State? Just from a financial standpoint.
The Big Ten doesn't need them. The SEC doesn't need them. They're clearly ahead. They're ahead of the game without them. And for me, if you're a Clemson or FSU, why would I want to go somewhere and be a peon? Like, respectfully, I'm not the top dog anymore. Why would I want to leave if I'm a Clemson?
So here's the thing. Here's what these other conferences have to gain. Let's look at it from their perspective. If these teams come in, they're not getting full revenue shares. They're not. They're going to be in a similar situation to what Rutgers was in with the Big Ten, what Maryland was in, same type of deal, to where like Texas A&M was in for a little bit of while. Like you get a reduced cut basically. Actually, no, I believe Texas A&M left after they left when they were supposed to, basically, when they just didn't renew, and so it made sense. And I don't think they had to pay. I could be wrong there. But for the teams who left early, we saw them be financially emaciated to a point where it was like, this is why teams don't do this. The conferences in themselves, they're not hurt by that team coming in, because if Florida State comes, right, you get all of their revenue that doesn't go to the ACC. Like all of that then goes to you.
But is it worth the trouble? Is it worth adding another school to your conference schedule? Is it worth the hassle of now asking your programs, your universities to now have to, fit in some travel to go to Clemson, South Carolina, fit in some travel to go to Tallahassee, Florida? Like, is it worth the hassle of adding them to the mix when you feel like they might not be in the SEC championship conversation, the Big Ten championship conversation? I'd argue, what's the point?
If your plane can go from Baton Rouge or Starkville or Oxford to Gainesville, it could go a little couple miles further to Tallahassee.
It could, but why do you feel like, why should I? That's where I'm coming from. Like, why would I add you? What do I have to gain from having you? You're not offering me anything that I don't already have.
But you do, because they're some of the highest viewed teams in the nation. Clemson and Florida State are some of the highest viewed football teams in the nation. North Carolina, one of the highest viewed basketball teams in the nation when they're good. That's the reality.
But if you scoop all the other, the peons, the Vanderbilts of the world, the Rutgers of the world, the Marylands of the world, like they figures out of itself. Like why do I care? Why am I pushing it?
Pushing it because, again, from the conference's standpoint, Duke is one of the only groups that this makes sense for.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be very clear and plain about that. This doesn't make sense for everybody, but it makes sense for I hope I didn't cut out too bad there. But this doesn't make sense for everybody, but it makes sense for the new conference in a very meaningful way. Again, the teams in and of themselves. So it
makes sense for the Big Ten and the SEC.
Yeah, for them to pick up one of these teams, absolutely. To say, hey, I see you're without a home there. Come on home with us. We got you. You'll be all right with us. It makes a lot of sense because they're getting all of the viewership and all of the things that those teams bring. And again, you get the pick of the litter. You're not having to say, all right, I guess I'll take whatever leftovers. I guess I'll take this team.
But how big do you need to be? How big do you need to be? You want a 20 conference? Go ahead.
You're talking about the United States of America. We can't get big enough. We can't get enough. You can't do enough here. We always want more.
You can only play 12 games during the season.
We always want more.
You don't have extra games to play. And if you're trying to fight for a potential college football playoff conversation, you want that non-conference to get yourselves ready for it going into the gauntlet. Like, yes, absolutely.
Hey, Michigan, Ohio State is good. People like seeing it. But let's try Ohio State, Clemson in the regular season. Who would turn that down? Hey, Bama and Georgia. It's good, but let's maybe try Georgia, Clemson regular season. Georgia, Florida State. When Florida State got a couple years in the SEC and now all of a sudden they're recruiting on that SEC level. Who's going to say no to that in terms of them?
But if you thought the NIL was the Wild Wild West before, add these super conferences. If you know what who the real villain is in all of this? Pay transparency. Because before we had started to shell out, who was making what, how much the TV deals were, then there was not these backdoor conversations where people just, kind of understood privately what people were making. Before all of this became so like, let's just throw it all out there, which half the time these numbers are not accurate. Can I be honest? It was never a big issue. Like 57 million. You didn't count taxes. You didn't count fees. You didn't count retainers. You didn't count all the things that when it does boil down to, you're probably getting 10 more extra rows in a stadium. Like, pay transparency is the real villain.
I strongly disagree. These teams were bound to want more, but again, for the teams, it doesn't make sense because everybody keeps talking about secession and dissolution, and I'm gonna keep saying the same thing. And by the way, I want to call out something because somebody said we work for the ACC yesterday. You're one of the people who you've been faster than common sense all your life, because I promise you our checks would be bigger. Our studios would be a little bit better, more set. No offense to David Locke and company, but the ACC got a little different. That money hits a little different than Locked On. No offense.
Well, beyond that, we wouldn't be talking down about the ACC network. Like, what do we do?
Oh, absolutely. You don't talk down about your boss.
Yeah,
you don't talk down about your boss. That's very dumb. But now, again, I leave it at a very simple point of where does the money come from? Where does the money come from for these teams? Because like we have seen in the comments, you're talking about battling Disney for your money. Disney. You're talking about battling Disney. Disney is the parent company that owns ESPN. You're talking about going up against them one for one, blow for blow, to try to take some money back. Now, you may be able to dissolve the ACC, which I still don't see the logistics and how that will work, but I don't know all the inner workings. I'm not going to sit here and say I'm God and I know everything. But what I do know is even if you dissolve the conference, ESPN is still going to be sitting there like, ooh, that's cool. That's nice. That's really nice. But
it's troublesome. Yeah.
Cute little thing y'all did with y'all conference there. But hey, Louisville, we still own your rights. NC State, we still own your rights. Florida State, we still own your rights. Clemson, we still own your rights. UNC, we still own your right. Virginia, we still own your right. Virginia Tech, we still own them. We still own it. So y'all can do whatever you want as a conference, but you're not getting in a different deal. because we got you signed to, as we like to say, or as they would say in the music industry, you signed to 360. That's just what it is. Every dime you touch, that it got to go where it got to go.
I think beyond that, it's just like, it's really frustrating because at the end of the day, they're over there in Amelia Island crying about millions. They could be on Amelia Island, Daniel Island, Ballhead Island. At the end of the day,
Ballhead Island is a real island, by the way, y'all. It's a real island.
So is Daniel Island and so is Amelia. At the end of the day, ain't nothing mattering until I see some air tightness become air loose.
Yeah, I agree.
Like there's nothing that will matter until there's a crack in that deal, in that contract. Until I see actual proof that something, they found a loophole, they found a squeaky clean 120, which if you can find $120 million, good luck explaining that to your respective states who, I don't know, Florida currently cutting funding from each and every possible nook and cranny. I don't know North Carolina, who pays their teachers one of the lowest in the damn country, and how hard to explain why you're spending and shelling out all this money to go to the SEC or Big Ten. Like, y'all got to be FFR.
Yeah. And again, this is not a political spiel about this party, that party. No. We're saying objectively speaking, exactly. Yeah. Objectively speaking, regardless of who your governor is, regardless of who your mayor is, regardless of the color, red, purple, blue, you still got to talk green when you're talking this. You're talking green that you want to take from Mickey Mouse and them. Let me tell you something. That hits different. That Disney, that one right there, that hits different. Okay, it's a very, very different situation than what many of y'all are imagining in terms of, well, my team gets a lot of viewers, so we'll be able to come up with $120 million, and we'll be able to withstand paying both the ACC and having to pay whatever new conference we go to.
Exactly. Okay. Last question before we get out of here from Mr. Peanut himself. How long does Miami and Florida sit there while Florida makes $34 million more than them, or while South Carolina makes more than Clemson? South Carolina over here, maybe that one time they beat Clemson last year made them feel like they're big for their britches, but other than that, irrelevant. Florida, when they've been relevant in the SEC.
And here's the thing. I do think that's a very good question. It's a very genuine question, but the reality is you're stuck in that deal. Like as crappy as the deal is, and this is why if you are pro ACC as an entity, you look at the deal that Commissioner Phillips has him in and say, hey, I mean, he did his thing because nobody can get out. If you're pro these teams and you're looking at that deal, you got raked over the coals. I mean, they took you to, Ice Cube made a song called No Vaseline that describes what has happened here. If you're these teams, okay, that's the reality of what we're looking at, RIP Jerry Heller and all of them, no disrespect, RIP Easy too, but that's neither here nor there. The reality is, if you're the teams, of course you're going to be mad. Of course, you're getting less than, like you said, Peanut. They're making less than the folks right down the street from them. As a team, you are absolutely going to be mad. As a conference, Phillips is sitting up there chilling. Oh, y'all are mad. You're mad. Don't be mad. Why are you mad? What are you going to do about it, tough guy?
You know what? You know who ain't came to the front of the office? Ain't come to front of the altar call? John Swafford. My boy's sitting pretty and saying it. I'm
gonna tell you this. I'm gonna run some numbers for you, okay? $120 million.
Yeah.
By 8 teams, correct? That's 8 teams that it would take to dissolve, okay? Now, last time I checked, that is what? $800 million plus another $160 million. So these teams would have to pay the ACC
almost $1 billion.
A hair under $1 billion, just a hair under $1 billion to get out of this thing, which, by the way, you're still not actually out of. You signed to Death Row Records, okay? That's what happened. That, the TikTok sound, I robbed you, gang. I'm sorry, I robbed you, gang. That's what happened. Yeah. And again, And for the folks saying that we work for the ACC, has anybody ever once heard me say, "Hey, this deal is great for the teams"? Ever? When we started talking granted rights, I did say that. I'm not going to say it now.
Who is the worst deal? Are you signed to Diddy? Are you signed to Suge Knight?
Ooh.
Are you signed to what's my boy's name? Herb Gotti? Like, who are you signed to?
They say Fabio Foreign got paid about $5,000 by Mace. He got like a $5,000 or $1,000 advance or something like that, and didn't get nothing after that. I said he was on the double XL freshman award.
Ooh. Who are you really signed to? If we're gonna end it on a nice juicy one, who are we really signed to?
I
think we're signed to P. Diddy.
I would probably say that's tough.
We're not signed to Suge because we're not bullied into this thing.
And that's what I'm saying. Like Philip's been too quiet, because if he was Suge, he would have came out and said, "Hey, good job, y'all, getting together. Y'all are so tough. What are you gonna do about it?" That would have been that's tough.
I feel like it's Diddy because he never comes out. Jerry.
See, I agree with Bam McKay. We signed to Jerry because Jerry didn't say nothing to nobody. He just robbed them blind and was just sitting there like, what, me? Rob? I'm joking. That's alleged that he robbed them blind. It's alleged.
Yeah, he did rob them blind.
Hey, listen, I don't want nobody coming after me. I'm broke, okay? I don't want to. If they sue me, they just gonna get this Peloton back here that I can't use no way, okay? I don't want that for me and my peoples, okay? So allegedly, but yeah, we signed to Jerry because he ain't saying nothing. Yeah, Phillips ain't said a word.
That's a good one, Bam McCain. We're definitely signed to Jerry.
He ain't said a mumbling word. That man ain't said nothing. I can't speak on.
He's sitting on his severance and said, "See ya."
I can't speak on what's going on right now. It's a lot going on. I can't speak on what's going on because if I speak, y'all gonna get mad.
All that to say, is Louisville the A team? Who really knows? At the end of the day, ACC still lives to see another day. What's really sad about all of this and highly not funny is if the ACC does dissolve, we have no jobs. So I'm over here rooting for the thing to figure it out. I'm over here really hoping that Kenton is right and that this thing is so airtight that they're just farting for the fun of it. So say all that to say, I feel like nothing's coming of this. I choose to believe the ignorance of nothing's changing.
I'll tell you this. You have a full-time job outside of this. I got a full-time job outside of this. I also cover the Wolfpack full-time. You used to cover the Tar Heels full-time. I mean, we know if the ACC dissolves, I'm pretty sure they're not going to dissolve NC State and UNC with them. I'm pretty sure Florida State will not dissolve with the ACC. Clemson will not. Like, for everybody saying, oh, so many of y'all in the media want to see the ACC stay together because the ACC pays y'all. There's a certain group of folks who get paid by the ACC. Most of us ain't in that group.
Nah, David, right? My check. I ain't got no check from ACC in a minute. So, like, what we doing here? All that to say, I hope it's still
supposed to be cashing the ACC check. Phillips, you got my number, baby. Call me. Jerry,
we sorry. Like, I don't know what to say. Like, I hope we can figure this out soon. But come back tomorrow. Absolutely. We'll have more conversations and discussions about it. I'm sure there will be more breaking news because ACC, of course, the higher minds are meeting this week at Amelia Island. Hopefully everyone got a nice rest. We can come back tomorrow and figure things out. But we haven't talked about the Dukes of the world. We haven't talked about the Georgia Techs of the world. We haven't talked about the Pitts of the world. What are they even thinking about it? So we'll have all those conversations, and maybe they're having backdoor conversations when it's all said and done. Maybe there'll be a little, tea party, a little fight, a little roast, if you will. We'll find out on tomorrow's show for Candace Cooper and Kenton Gibbs. Until next time.